That's a good introduction right there.
Now, do you guys keep any of the fish you catch out of the Ohio River?
Nope.
It's all catch and release.
Every bit of it.
Well, good for you guys. Why don't you keep them? Just because it's more fun to let them go, or you don't want to eat fish out of there?
No, I don't really think about that as far as like polluted water or anything like that. I enjoy releasing them back, and then knowing that I don't know, just knowing that I did my part today. I helped out.
No. And also, usually when we go, we leave. We try to get there right at daylight.
Oh yeah.
So we got an hour drive, just about at least an hour drive, any place on the Ohio we go to, and that's also an hour back. And we usually fish all day till dark. So
12 to 14 hours is average.
You don't really feel like coming home and cleaning fish.
Yeah.
That was always the worst part for me going on a big crappie fishing trip, because we do the same thing. We'd get there and stay all day. And when you get home with 35 fish, the last thing on earth I wanted to do was sit there and fillet 35 crappie. Yeah.
That's exactly what I did today, 35 crappie. But see, we were done at 10:30.
Oh, geez.
We got there at 6, and 10:30, we had 35 keepers, and I said, we're done. Let's go home. They start slowing down, and it just starts getting hot this time of year.
How are you catching crappie this time of year?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm trolling.
Trolling
jigs. Honestly, I had live minnows out twice this week, and jigs were out fishing minnows 10-1.
So, talking about what, 10 foot of water?
20. I'm in 20 foot of water, and I'm fishing the bottom 3 feet.
And has the thermocline flipped in that lake yet?
Nope.
So that's why you're going so deep, right?
Yeah.
So, but once the thermocline flips, you'll probably troll in about 10, right? Or will you search for structure?
I'll look for the thermocline.
Okay.
You'll have to fish above the thermocline.
Exactly.
Now, are you familiar with that, Zach?
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with that. Does thermocline affect catfish the same way it affects other species?
Yes.
Okay, so
I fished in a tournament last year that the thermocline on that lake was 7 feet. Almost every fish was caught in less than 7 feet. It didn't matter if it was 40 feet deep; they were in 7 foot of water. You only fish the top 7 feet.
Yeah,
for the guys that won that tournament caught fish. Actually, Chris Souders caught the biggest fish, and he caught it in 2 foot of water.
That is so strange, because whenever I think of a catfish, I think of a bottom-feeding fish all the time, no matter what.
Nope.
Eyes are on top of the head.
Especially come summertime, even like the Scioto River, it doesn't even have a thermocline.
Right.
But summertime, they will be feeding very shallow at night. If you catch them, it's shallow. But at the same time, I've found that it's still close to that hole.
Yep.
So you go, instead of fishing in the hole or the current seam of the hole, which would still be about 15 foot of water, you go to the flat beside it and fish anywhere from like 8 to no feet.
Yeah, for flathead catfish anyway, the studies have shown that the average depth for catfish after sunset is 9 feet or less. They feed in 9 feet or less. If you fish them deeper than 9 feet, I mean, you could still catch a fish because not every fish is going to do the same thing. But for the majority, your flatheads are all going to move to 9 foot of water or less. And in reality, flatheads are actually, I hate to say this because bass fishermen just don't get along very good, but flatheads are actually more built like a largemouth bass. They have a huge underbite. Their jaw is positioned to attack from below. Their eyes are positioned differently on their heads than a blue cat or a channel cat. They are made to ambush fish from below, and much like a largemouth bass.
They're predatory and very aggressive.
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's something that knowing that, like, do you know what a Santee Cooper rig is?
No.
Do you know what a Carolina rig is?
What?
Yes.
I was going to ask him if he wanted us to go over like types of rigs and stuff we use.
No, I would love a rig rundown.
Okay. a Santee Cooper is basically a Carolina with a float, or what's called a Demon Dragon, and they'll explain that in a second. They'll do it better than me. But for flatheads, generally, I don't use nothing. I just let that bait fish do whatever it wants to. Nothing extra. Not a very long leader. But that's the river I fish. That's what I found to work for me. Now, my dad, he's always got a daggone Demon Dragon on. And he lives in them.
They catch fish.
But the one time he caught, it's not his personal best, but his personal best from the Scioto, he was using a rig like mine. And I actually I put it on the spot for him. I had a feeling there was a fish there. Was fishing a root ball. Not even 10 minutes. About pulled him in.
Yeah, so the days of old school catfishing, you mentioned it earlier, just not catfishing just isn't your thing. The days of sitting on a bucket on the bank and using spark plugs for sinkers and throwing a piece of chicken liver out and drinking a beer, that's not today's catfishermen for the most part. I mean, those guys I'm sure still exist, but for the most part, catfishing, at least trophy size catfishing and channel catfishing, has evolved much like we talked about earlier. Trolling and drifting and dragging baits for like channel cats, blue cats. So what he was talking about, a demon dragon or a demon, there's a lot of knockoffs or replications of. It's basically a bass Zara spook. All right, so it's a topwater bait. It's hollow. They take all the hooks off, and instead of using the little treble hooks, we tie the line to the nose and to the tail, or we just weave it through one consecutive piece, and then we trail it with a large hook, 9/0, 10/0 hook, 8/0 hook, whatever everyone's preference is. But the idea is that people use styrofoam floats to keep their bait up off the bottom, just a little bit. And but fish would hit those styrofoam floats and break them and bust them, and you'd have to keep retying rigs. So this guy, Scott Manning, came up with the idea, let's use one of these lures, and because it has a rattle in it, and let's try that. It's hard plastic. They shouldn't tear it up. And, like Terry said, some guys believe in it, and some guys don't. And confidence is probably 90% of your game when it comes to fishing. If you're not confident with what you're doing or what you got, you're not going to be real successful. But these things rattle. It's thought to believe that the rattling and vibration, if it doesn't cause the fish to come attack it, it at least gets their curiosity enough to come over that way and maybe see what the heck that is. If you were in your living room and all of a sudden you heard a tapping noise coming from the dining room and it just wouldn't stop, eventually you'd get up and go check out what the heck that is. And the idea is that when that catfish comes over to figure out what the heck that is, he smells your bait and takes the bait. A lot of people believe in them, but there's still a lot of people who don't. And it's 50-50 really. I like them. I use them. I use the different variations. They got rattles you could just put on your line with a foam float. They got the Demon Dragons. They've got, rattling shads. There's so many different variations of these things out there now.
More and more popping out all the time.
Yeah.
I definitely see the significance of them. I haven't used them enough to be sold on them.
So that's one rig. So what do you use? What's your primary rig when you set up? Just that big heavy sinker, leader, bait?
I use a sinker slide, which is plastic eye basically that goes on your line first, and then it has a big clip on it, and you clip your weight onto it. I run it down to a bead to protect my knot.
Yeah,
and then I normally have a big crane swivel. It's just a heavy duty swivel. Basically, anything when it comes to swivels, if you're serious about catfishing, you just basically want to look for a rating. If it doesn't have a weight rating on it, it's not very good quality. You know what I mean? 100-pound swivel is ideal because you never know what you're going to hook into. And then I'll run a leader line down, and normally I will have a Demon Dragon or Rattle system of some sort on there. And recently I've been running, it's funny. I don't like my demon dragons or my rattles or anything to get down within 3 to 4 inches of my hook. Because I feel when the fish grabs that, if there's anything there that could prevent him from closing his mouth entirely and getting my hook, I don't want it. And so I've been running a piece of airline tubing the last 4 to 5 inches up from my hook to prevent anything from going down to my hook.
That's a unique solution.
It
probably helps against abrasion too.
It does. It does help against abrasion as well. I slide mine down over the eye of my hook. I tie a snell knot anyway, so my knots don't come undone, but this is just one more piece of security. But that's like my number one rig. I like to be able to take my weight on and off. So like when we travel, I don't like my sinker banging up against my rod. I can unclip it, throw it in the box, and I put a rod sleeve over my rod, and it's protected and safe. But
what kind of rods and reels are you rocking?
I, for the most part, run Big Cat Fever rods. I run Big Cat Fever and Muddy River catfishing rods. And then I have a variety of, most of mine are Boo Garcia 6500s and Penn Fathom 20s or Penn Squall 20s. I've got way more rods and reels than I need.
I'm running TWC, which is Tangling with Catfish. I got a couple of the Big Cat Fever and a couple of the Muddy River. I started out with Rippin' Lips, and that's a great rod to start out with and very affordable. Start out with the Cat Max reel from Bass Pro Shop, which is a decent reel to start out with, but I'm all Abu Garcia now.
And Abu makes such a great product, but they also have a pretty good selection as far as quality goes. Like if you want to get a good entry level rod and reel, Abu can cover that.
And parts.
That's what's so great about the 6500s is if something breaks in it, there's no problem getting a part and getting it fixed. You can upgrade them. You can upgrade the bearings, the drags. There's so much you can do.
Even
with
the
them.
reel.
Yeah.
Take off the reel and get it like what's called a power reel.
Handle.
Real handle. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Their customer service is great. I bought a used Abu that it was an open face reel and the bail was broken. And I contacted them, and even though I bought the thing used from somebody, they went ahead and fixed it.
Oh wow, that's great!
Yeah, I was shocked. So
yeah, what you pay for.
Absolutely, and I'm an Abu guy now for sure.
Yeah,
I want to go back to the rig setup on the leader line. That varies from season or species. Like Terry was saying, primarily in the Scioto, we always really targeted flatheads or channels, because for the longest time I never even believed that there was a blue cat in the Scioto.
Many people don't.
Up by us. And his buddy, a couple guys he went to school with, their brothers, they kept claiming that they were catching blue cats, and right there by Walmart, Yeah. I'm like, no way, they're getting them mixed up with channels. There's just no way. And what was it, 2-3 weeks ago, I caught a 9-pound blue cat at a place that we fish at. One
of them boys
quite often.
They sent me a picture of a blue cat, and one I was like, man, I think that's a channel. You just got it wrong, because a lot, when a channel cat spawns, the male turns blue, a real dark blue, and depending on what shade of water it's in, that'll vary of what the shade looks like when it's caught. To me, it looked like a male channel, and maybe that one was, but then he sent me one, and it was a real good picture, and I could see what you call the fin underneath on the tail.
Dorsal fin.
No, the dorsal fin is the top.
Yeah.
Pectoral.
Yeah, I could see the pectoral, and I could definitely tell it was for sure a blue cat. It was a little light, and I was like, yeah, that's definitely a blue cat. But then, lo and behold, we caught one ourselves. and it was 9 pounds, which is pretty cool. 10 years, he'll be a nice fish.
Oh yeah.